But let's continue with that story and get reaction from the National Liquor Traders Association, which has learned with sadness of the loss of life at the tavern in the Eastern Cape. While investigations continue, the association is particularly concerned by initial reports indicating that the incident happened in the early hours of this morning, pointing to potential non-compliance to permitted trading hours. Let's go to Lucky Ntimane now, who is the founder. Thank you very much, Mr. Ntimane, for coming in and for speaking to us. Now, you've asked for the police to investigate. They say they are investigating. Are you doing any of your own investigations? I mean, finding out that a 13-year-old is, among those who died, a 13-year-old at a tavern.
Firstly, thank you so much for the opportunity, and we'd like to send our heartfelt condolences to the families that lost their loved ones in this incident that was totally preventable, but was allowed to happen for circumstances beyond our wildest imagination. You've just touched on now a 13-year-old in a tavern. A 13-year-old should not be in a tavern. In fact, anyone under the age of 18 should not be in a tavern. And we are particularly concerned that this incident seemed to have happened outside the permitted hours as per the license regulations of the Eastern Cape Liquor Board. So it is clear from the initial assessment that this outlet is non-compliant, and we're echoing calls made by the Premier and various organizations on the ground, including parents, that say this tavern must be closed. But we want to also add on top of that to say any tavern that operates in South Africa that doesn't comply with the relevant regulations actually must be closed, because we cannot allow liquor traders to operate with impunity. Yes, they are our members, yes, they are our constituency, but we do not condone such behaviors, because if this is allowed to happen, we are going to read about similar fate of other children in other parts of the country. So this cannot be allowed to happen. We are very aggrieved by this incident, and our condolences once again goes to the family.
And I mean, is it enough just to shut down these operations? Shouldn't the owners also be arrested and not just pay a fine? Maybe the punishment should be harsher so that people understand that this is wrong.
We share the same sentiments, and I had a long telephonic conversation this morning with the Minister of Police, General Bheki, as well as the National Commissioner of Police, General Fanima Simula. And the Minister highlighted the ease with which liquor outlets are able to be granted licenses without being subjected to much further scrutiny to check whether someone qualifies to get a license. And we share the same sentiments with the Minister. We feel that, yes, we need to be able to issue licenses to deserving shebeens who ought to move into the formalization space so that they can support their families. But this should not be done at the expense of communities, at the expense of societies. Like now we've seen what has taken place in East London. Licenses should not just be given out like sweets, but it should be given out to those that are deserving, like we are seeing now in the Eastern Cape. We feel that that outlet owner does not deserve to possess a liquor license. And we are hoping that by tomorrow he will not be able to operate ever in his life. We should condone in the strongest terms anyone who operates a liquor outlet but does not follow the regulations as contained in the license regulations. In a country, we have 9 liquor laws because we have 9 provinces, so each and every province has its own provincial liquor board. Those liquor license regulations ought to be followed to the T, and critical to those are not selling liquor to persons under the age of 18, not selling beyond the permitted hours, or even making noise to your neighbors, because these operate in a township space where you've got neighbors who've got school kids that are studying. So all of these needs to be followed. That's why the issuing of licenses, as highlighted by the Minister of Police, needs to ensure that it is given to those that are deserving and those that will follow the law.
And this is obviously, this is something that everybody should be involved in, because as a parent, not to know where your 13-year-old is at that time is also quite problematic. But let's talk about your conversation with the Minister and the Commissioner. You know, there's also a problem here and there with police, as you heard that parent saying he blames the police as well, who don't make sure that they enforce the law there. But also, is there also a problem with the different liquor boards when they actually give these licenses? Do they not go to the place and make sure, like, for instance, this one apparently only has one exit and one entry?
Tempting as it is to point fingers, I think this is not a time to get into that space where we're pointing fingers. I think we need to look at a solution that will ensure that we prevent a similar issue from happening again. There might have been lapses of maybe focus from the police or even from the liquor board side. I think for us, we need to be able to say, what are we doing to make sure that a similar situation doesn't occur, not only in the Eastern Cape, but also across the country. As a national liquor traders, we have a good working relationship with all the liquor boards in the country, with the exception of the Western Cape. But that's a topic for another day. But also with the police, we have a good relationship with the National Police Commissioner, as well as all his deputies and the Minister of Police. We work hand in hand, and not only on issues of responsible trading or even drinking, but also on other social programs such as gender-based violence. So we feel that the relationship is already there to be able to tackle some of these challenges that we are experiencing that has given rise to the deaths that we've seen in the Eastern Cape, which are wholly preventable.
And just lastly, Mr. Ntimane, you know, when an incident of such a nature happens and you look at the video and how many people were there, at what time it happened, etc., a lot of people would say, well, this is why then liquor was always the first punished industry, if, for lack of a better word, every time COVID looked like it was fighting back, you know, against all the things that government was trying to do. What's your reaction to that?
Look, we have now accepted that as alcohol industry, we got blamed for everything. I think at some point there was even temptation to be blamed for load shedding. So we accept that, you know, we'll always be put in a corner. But even though we accept that we've got rotten apples in our midst, but those should not be used to punish those that are selling alcohol in a responsible way. We have about 39,000 taverns in the country that are operating in our townships that support about 250,000 jobs. So we need to be able to deal with issues as they arise, but focusing on that specific transgressor and not, you know, paint everyone with the same brush.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ntimane, for your time and for coming to studio. That was Lucky Ntimane. He is the founder of the National Liquor Traders Association.